There's nothing quite like a family vacation to expose the ugliest truths, and for me, it was the moment I realized my husband would rather let his family walk all over me than actually stand up for his own wife. You know, I've always considered myself a pretty chill, easygoing person. My name is Emma, and I'm 29. I've been married to Matt for 2 years now, and his family? Well, they're a big, tight-knit bunch. I've always tried my best to get along with them, but honestly, it's never been easy. They're, let's just say, a little old-fashioned, and I often feel like a total outsider at family gatherings. But this vacation? This one took the absolute cake. It started like any other trip. We were all staying at this huge, beautiful house right on the beach for a week, celebrating Matt's dad's 60th birthday. Matt's parents, his 2 brothers and their families, plus a few other relatives, it was a crowd. So many people. I thought, oh, Emma, this is a chance to bond. Oh, how wrong I was. I should have known something was off the moment we arrived. The drive was long, a 2-day road trip, and I was already completely exhausted. We pulled up to the house, and Matt and I were greeted with the usual warm hugs from his mom, Carol, and his dad, George. They're nice enough people, truly, but I've always had this weird feeling, like they're subtly judging me from the sidelines. Maybe it's because I'm not exactly the family type they expected. I'm a bit more introverted compared to their loud, boisterous crew. But I pushed those thoughts away. We were here to celebrate, right? The first night was supposed to be a casual get-together. Everyone was in the living room, talking and laughing, but immediately I felt this invisible barrier between me and everyone else. No one was overtly rude, but it was crystal clear I wasn't truly part of the conversations. Every time I tried to chime in, the topic would magically shift. Before I knew it, I was just sitting there, feeling like a ghost. It didn't help that Matt, who usually tries to mediate, was totally absorbed with his brothers and their kids. I mean, I get wanting to catch up with your family, but it felt like I was completely invisible. After a while, I just couldn't take it anymore. I needed air. As I walked out onto the porch, needing a breather, I overheard Matt talking to his mom. "She's just not fitting in, Mom," he said. "You know how they are. They're not exactly the warmest." I froze. His words stung, a sharp jab right to my gut, but I tried to push down the hurt. He was just being honest, right? It wasn't intentional, I told myself. But deep down, I couldn't shake the dread that this whole trip was going to be one long, agonizing week. The next day, things absolutely did not improve. We all went for breakfast in the house's huge dining area. I walked in, and an awkward silence hit me like a physical blow. The table was already set, and there were enough seats for everyone, except me. The only one left was way down at the far end, completely isolated. Everyone else was already seated, chatting and laughing like they'd been there for hours, while I just stood there, completely lost. I looked at Matt, but he seemed oblivious. So, I quietly made my way to that lonely seat, trying desperately to blend into the background. As the meal dragged on, I tried to engage. "So, how's the weather looking for tomorrow?" I asked, hoping to spark some small talk with his aunt, Susan. But she barely even acknowledged me. "Oh, I think it'll be fine," she mumbled, not even looking up from her plate. The tension in that room was so thick, you could practically cut it with a knife, but nobody else seemed to notice. I just kept picking at my food, feeling more and more like I didn't belong. Every time I tried to make eye contact, they'd either turn away or shift their focus elsewhere. It was like a cruel game of hot potato, everyone passing me off without even realizing it. At one point, Carol, Matt's mom, made a comment that felt like a direct hit. "You know, dear, it's nice to see you fitting in," she said, her tone a little too sugary to be genuine. "You'll get used to it. It's just how our family operates." I nodded, a forced smile plastered on my face. "Oh yeah, I'm sure I'll get the hang of it." But inside, I was absolutely seething. Just how their family operates? What did that even mean? Why was I always the one left out? Later that evening, I pulled Matt aside. Hey, can we talk for a second? He looked at me, his brow furrowing. Sure. What's up? I took a deep breath. I can't help but notice I'm not really being included in anything, I said, my voice coming out more irritated than I intended. I feel like I'm invisible to your family. Matt's face softened, but he didn't seem all that concerned. It's just how they are, Emma. You know they can be a bit distant. It's not personal, I promise. I don't care if it's personal or not, Matt. I snapped. I'm your wife, and I feel like I'm being treated like an outsider. He just shrugged. That's just how they are. You'll get used to it. His nonchalant response cut deeper than anything else anyone had said. I'll get used to it? I repeated, my voice rising slightly. This is my first family trip with your side of the family, and I'm being treated like an afterthought. I don't think that's something I just have to get used to. Matt didn't respond. Instead, he gave me a vague look of sympathy, but I could tell he wasn't taking me seriously. I took a deep breath, trying to keep my frustration from boiling over. You know what? Fine. I'll figure it out myself. That night, as I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, an idea started to form in my mind. If they were going to treat me like I didn't matter, maybe I should show them just how capable I was of having my own fun, without their approval. The next morning, everyone gathered for breakfast again. But this time, I was determined to flip the script. When I walked into that dining room, I saw that the usual seat at the end of the table was, predictably, empty. I smiled to myself. I didn't sit there. Instead, I walked straight to the center, pulled out a chair, and sat right next to Carol. She looked up, surprised. Emma, you're sitting here? She asked, her voice dripping with confusion. Yes, Carol. I think I'll sit here today, I said, smiling sweetly. I'm part of the family after all. The silence in that room was absolutely deafening. Matt shot me a confused glance but said nothing. Everyone else exchanged uncomfortable looks, but not a single word was spoken. I felt a small jolt of victory, but I wasn't done yet. As breakfast continued, I made a conscious effort to engage with everyone. I spoke to Matt's cousins, cracked a joke with his aunt, and even helped clear the dishes afterward, just to show them I wasn't someone to be brushed aside. But the more I did, the more uncomfortable it seemed to make them. Every time I joined a conversation, it would get awkward and then just die out. It was like they couldn't handle me actually being present. The more I pushed, the more they retreated. I could feel the tension building, and I wasn't sure how much longer I could keep this up before the inevitable blow-up. But I didn't care. I was making my own fun now. I was going to enjoy this trip, even if it killed me. That night, I really thought I had made my point. I had a few drinks with Matt and his brothers, keeping the atmosphere light and fun. But I could see the family growing increasingly uneasy. Every time I spoke or laughed, they'd exchange glances, like they were just waiting for me to leave or mess up. It all came to a head when Carol cornered me in the kitchen. Emma, you really need to stop, she said, her voice quiet but firm. Stop what? I asked, genuinely confused. Stop trying so hard. It's making things uncomfortable, she said, her eyes narrowing. We're fine just the way we are. I raised an eyebrow. Well, I'm not fine just the way you are. If I'm going to be part of this family, I deserve a little respect. Her face flushed, and she opened her mouth to say something. But before she could, Matt stepped in. Mom, can you give it a rest? Emma's not trying to make things harder. She's just being herself. But Carol wasn't done. She looked at me, eyes blazing. Maybe if you understood how her family works, you wouldn't be causing problems. I took a deep breath, forcing myself to stay calm. This wasn't just a fight with Carol anymore. This felt like the whole family, and I knew that if I didn't stand my ground now, I might never get the respect I deserved. But then the unthinkable happened. I saw Matt's eyes flicker with something I couldn't quite place. Was he ashamed of me? The moment hung in the air, a heavy, suffocating weight. I had to make a choice. Was I going to keep playing this game, or would I finally show them all what happens when you underestimate me? The tension in that kitchen was unbearable. Carol was still standing there, eyes fixed on me like I had just committed the greatest crime imaginable. And Matt just stood there, silent. My heart raced, and I could feel my face burning with a mix of frustration and raw anger. I honestly could not believe that after everything I had tried, after all the effort I had made to fit in, this was the response I was getting. I looked over at Matt. Are you seriously just going to stand there and let this happen? He didn't answer. He didn't have to. His silence spoke volumes. I could tell he wasn't willing to take a side. At least, not openly. My chest tightened, the crushing realization settling in. Maybe I was the only one who cared about changing things. Maybe this was just how their family was, and I was never going to fit into their mold. I couldn't stay there, not with the way they were all treating me. But instead of arguing further or escalating things even more right there, I made a decision. I had an idea, something I knew would shake things up, but I wasn't sure if I was ready for the fallout. That's when I remembered something, a trick that always worked for me when I felt utterly powerless: social media. I excused myself from the kitchen, trying to ignore the weird tension in the air as I passed by the family, who had all gathered back in the living room. Everyone seemed too focused on their own little worlds to even look my way, and I couldn't help but feel a little smug about it. I was done being the invisible one. As soon as I got to our bedroom, I grabbed my phone and opened Instagram. I could feel my fingers shaking as I typed, but I was determined to make a statement, to let them know that I wasn't some side character in their little family drama. I started crafting a post, the words coming easier than I had expected. I wrote, "Sometimes you have to make your own fun when you're not invited to the party. When people treat you like you don't matter, you find a way to matter to yourself. Hashtag creating my enjoy, hashtag family drama." I hit post before I could second guess myself. The caption was short, but the message was crystal clear. I wasn't going to sit around and wait for their approval. They could ignore me, but I wasn't going to play by their rules anymore. For a moment, I just sat there, staring at my phone, watching the post go live. My heart was pounding in my chest as notifications popped up. People were already liking it. It felt like a small victory, like I had finally done something to assert myself. But the real drama started soon after. It wasn't even 5 minutes before I heard Matt's footsteps coming down the hallway. He knocked on the door before walking in, and I could see that familiar, disappointed look on his face. "Emma," he started, his voice heavy with concern. "What did you just do?" I didn't even look up from my phone. "What do you mean?" "I just posted something on social media." "It's no big deal." "Are you seriously posting about us on social media?" he asked, sounding more frustrated than I had expected. "You're airing our dirty laundry for the world to see." I set my phone down and finally met his eyes. "Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't realize that treating me like an outsider was the family secret we were supposed to keep hidden. You can't just expect me to take it quietly, Matt. I'm done playing nice." Matt's face softened, but his tone grew sharper. "I get that you're upset, but this isn't the way to handle it. It's embarrassing for everyone, and it's making things worse. You know, my family, they're going to flip when they see that." "I don't care anymore," I said, feeling the anger rise in my chest. "You don't get to ignore me and then act like everything's fine. You don't get to decide how I should feel about being treated like an afterthought. If you won't stand up for me, I will, in whatever way I can." His expression hardened. "This isn't going to help. It's going to make it worse. Trust me, I don't care if it makes it worse. Maybe they'll finally understand that I'm not just here to play the part of the perfect wife. I'm a person, Matt. I deserve to be treated like one." He opened his mouth to argue again, but before he could get a word out, I picked up my phone and checked the notifications. It seemed like the post was blowing up more than I expected. I saw a comment from one of my friends, "Good for you, girl. Sometimes you just gotta take control of your own narrative." The likes were pouring in, and the comments were starting to add up too. But then my phone buzzed again. This time it was a message from Matt's sister, Rachel. "Emma, are you seriously posting about us on social media? That's not how we do things in this family. You've got to stop." I let out a dry laugh. "How we do things? You mean, ignoring me at every turn?" I could hear Matt sighing deeply. "You really want to escalate this, don't you?" I raised an eyebrow. "What do you think I've been doing all this time? Sitting quietly in the corner while everyone treats me like I'm invisible? I'm done, Matt." The silence in the room stretched out for a long moment. I could see the frustration in his eyes, but I could also tell that this time, something in me had shifted. He wasn't going to be able to control this situation anymore. I could hear footsteps down the hall, and soon after, Carol entered the room. Her face was flushed with anger, and her mouth was tight with disapproval. "Emma," she said, trying desperately to keep her voice calm, but failing. "This needs to stop. You're causing a scene, and it's embarrassing for all of us. What is wrong with you?" I stood up and faced her, meeting her gaze head-on. "What's wrong with me? What's wrong is that I've been trying to fit in for weeks, for months, and all you've done is treat me like I don't belong. I'm not the problem here, Carol. Your family is." The room was silent as Carol took a deep breath. But before she could respond, I turned my back on them both, grabbed my purse, and walked toward the door. I wasn't going to sit here and let them tear me down anymore. If they wanted to see a problem, I was going to show them one. "Where are you going?" Matt asked, his voice tinged with worry. "I'm leaving," I said simply. "I've had enough of being treated like this. I'll take the first flight out tomorrow, but you should know, I'm done." I walked out of the room, the sound of their muffled voices following me down the hallway. As I made my way to the front door, I could already feel the pressure lifting. But for the first time in days, I felt lighter, free, like I was finally taking control of my own life. But as I walked out of the house and into the cold evening air, I knew the fallout from my post was just beginning. Standing there, the cold night air biting at my skin, a sense of finality settled in. I had just done something I never, ever thought I would do. But I was done. I had reached my breaking point. The front door opened behind me with a sharp creak, and I didn't need to turn around to know it was Matt. His footsteps were heavy, and I could hear the desperation in his voice as he called my name. "Emma, can we just talk about this?" he pleaded. I didn't answer right away. I didn't know what to say. I was angry, hurt, frustrated. So many emotions were swirling inside me, a chaotic mess I couldn't separate into clear thoughts. I stood there for a long moment, letting the silence between us stretch out, the only sound being the distant hum of cars passing on the street. Then I finally turned, my eyes locking onto his. I could see the confusion and concern in his eyes. But there was also something else there, a kind of distance. It made my heart ache. "I don't want to talk, Matt," I said, my voice trembling with raw emotion. "You don't get it. You never get it. You just stand there acting like everything's fine while your family walks all over me. You think just because they're your family I should just accept the way they treat me? Like I'm invisible? Like I'm not even a person?" Matt took a step toward me, his hands raised in a placating gesture. "I know they're difficult, but you have to understand, they've always been like that. I can't change them. They're my family. They're not going to treat you like you want them to. It's just how they are." I felt my blood spike with anger. I had heard that excuse too many times. "Just how they are?" I repeated, disbelief dripping from my voice. "So, I'm supposed to just tolerate being ignored and treated like an afterthought because that's how they are? I'm sorry, Matt, but I'm not okay with that. I'm not okay with being nothing more than a shadow in your life. I'm not a background character. I'm a person, and I deserve better than this." Matt's expression softened for a moment, but I could see the frustration creeping back in. I never wanted this for you, but I can't control how they act. Why can't you just let it go? Why does this have to be such a big deal? Let it go. I repeated, my voice rising in disbelief. Let it go, Matt? You think I'm just supposed to smile and pretend everything's okay while your family treats me like dirt? I've tried. Okay? I've tried to make it work. I've tried to get along, to fit in, to be patient, but I'm not doing it anymore. I'm done pretending. Matt ran a hand through his hair, looking utterly lost. I never wanted you to feel like this, Emma. I thought you'd understand that it's just part of being with me. They're my family. I'm just asking you to accept them. To accept how they are. Accept them? I could feel my chest tightening as the words tumbled out. Accept their cruelty? Accept that they're okay with treating me like I don't matter? I can't do that. I can't just sit here and let them walk all over me while you stand by and let it happen. I saw him take a step back, his face contorting with frustration. It's not that simple, Emma. You don't understand. This is my family. I can't just cut them out because they've been rude to you. You have to learn how to deal with it. I shook my head, the anger flaring up in me again, burning away the hurt. You don't get it, do you? It's not about cutting them out. It's about you choosing them over me every single time. I'm not asking for you to abandon your family, but I'm asking for you to choose me for once. I've been asking for that for months, and it's like you don't even care. His face hardened, and I could see him struggling with his emotions, trying to keep them in check. I do care, Emma, but this is how it is. You can't just change everything because it's uncomfortable for you. I could feel my eyes stinging, and I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. But the weight of everything, the months of feeling ignored, the nights I spent lying awake wondering if this was all worth it, hit me all at once. My heart was heavy. And for the first time in a long time, I realized that I wasn't sure I wanted to keep fighting for this anymore. Not if he couldn't even see how much I was hurting. Maybe it's not worth it, Matt, I said quietly. The words felt like they came from someone else, someone who had finally reached the absolute end of her rope. Maybe I'm just done trying. Maybe I'm done trying to make this work. I don't want to be with someone who can't even see what's happening. I don't want to be in a relationship where I'm always second place. Always the one who has to adjust, to compromise, to make things work while you just sit back and let your family treat me like this. Matt's face turned pale as he processed what I was saying. He reached out as though to grab my arm, but I stepped back, putting distance between us. Emma, please, he said, his voice trembling. Don't say that. Don't talk like that. We can work this out. Just give it some time. We can fix this. I know we can. I shook my head, my throat closing up. No, Matt. I don't think we can. I've tried, and I'm tired. I'm really tired. I could see the shock in his eyes. He didn't want to accept what I was saying, but I could feel something inside me shifting. A sense of clarity that had been clouded by all the arguments and frustrations. I had spent so long trying to make it work, trying to be patient, trying to fit into a family that would never accept me. And in the process, I had lost myself. I couldn't do it anymore. Without saying another word, I turned on my heel and headed for the front door. Matt's voice followed me, pleading with me to stay, but I ignored it. I opened the door and walked outside into the cold night air, the harsh wind cutting through my clothes. I needed space. I needed time to think. I pulled out my phone, quickly ordering a taxi. I didn't know where I was going, but I knew I couldn't stay here. I couldn't stay in a place where I felt invisible, where I wasn't valued, where my own husband couldn't stand by me when I needed him the most. As I waited for the taxi to arrive, my mind raced with thoughts of what I had just said, what I had just done. I felt like I was on the edge of something, a precipice where everything could either fall apart or be rebuilt into something better. But for now, all I could do was walk away. The taxi pulled up a few minutes later, and without looking back, I got in, closing the door behind me. I stared out the window as the car drove away, the city lights flickering in the distance, and I couldn't help but wonder if I had just made the biggest mistake of my life, or if I had just done the bravest thing I'd ever done. Either way, I was on my own now. The taxi drove through the streets, carrying me away, and I felt this strange mix of relief and terrifying uncertainty. I didn't know if I'd made the right choice, but I knew, deep down, I couldn't keep living like that. I've spent so much time trying to make things work, to keep the peace, but now I'm questioning everything. I don't know if I should go back, try again, or if this is truly the end, time to walk away for good. I'm not even sure if I want to stay in this relationship anymore. But the idea of leaving everything behind? It's terrifying. Absolutely terrifying. I just don't know what to do next.